Hey everyone, welcome back to Metanoia. My name is Carrie Jane, and today I'm going to be talking about the year 2020, what this means for us as a collective and as a human race. Not so much interpersonally, and it can be difficult making forecast videos like this because how do you talk about the human race as a whole? How do we address what this means for every single person? And it is tricky, so just keep that in mind that even though we're going through these things as a whole, we're also going through these things individually, and so this will mean something very unique for each and every one of us. And if you want to know what this means for you, if you want to know what your personal year number is and wants to know what you're going to be going through as far as numerology goes each month, sign up for my Patreon service, which is a monthly service. And for those of you who are new here, you can find that link in the description, and I recommend opening that up on a computer instead of your mobile web browser so that you can easily read through the description and see exactly what you're signing up for. And that is a very good service if you want to kind of have a play-by-play experience of 2020 for you personally. Whereas this video is applying to all of us as a human race. So without further ado, let's get started. It is an early Sunday morning while I'm filming this. It's Sunday, December 15th. And this new year feels like an early Sunday morning. It really does. I almost ended up filming this yesterday, but it was a really difficult day. Unexpected things happened, and unfortunately I didn't get around to it. And I kind of see that as a good thing because today the sun is shining, it feels like a new dawn, and I have to say, even though we're not entering a 1 year, which is typically that kind of energy, it certainly feels like that. And this goes for everyone else who has this, I have a 9 attitude number, which means that whatever the world is going through as a collective, I am as well. So if you're sitting here and your birthday, the month and the day you were born, adds up to the number 9, guess what? This is your personal year number. And so a lot of this is going to be very personal to you. And this makes my job easier because, trying to send out little feelers and get a sense of what we as a collective are going into, it's easier for me, I think, just because then I only have to look inward and see how this could look for everyone. But yeah, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I feel in myself that this is a new dawn, and I can't numerologically explain this because that would be more like a 1 year, but nonetheless, I really think that following my gut instinct on this is important. And what I'm feeling is kind of like a clear quartz kind of energy, kind of like a year where what we truly want, what we are on, our paths, our true paths, our true purpose, our true goals, those that are centered in the big scheme of things, this is where we're going to come to a kind of culmination point. And I use that word too much. I use the word culmination too often here. And I think that's because it's hard to describe an energy where you're it's not like you weren't on your path, you're walking along the path the entire time. And we as a collective are going through the motions, but inwardly we can feel this change on a bigger level, whether we know it or not. And the change that I'm feeling is very pivotal. And I think that this is going to mean two very different things for a lot of people, or perhaps even more than two different things. I think this is going to mean a lot of different things for many different people, but I think it's going to be very impactful. And stay tuned and keep watching this video to find out what I'm saying here, exactly what I'm trying to convey to you guys. Let's begin with dissecting the year 2020. We have two twos, we have two zeros, so we have repeating numbers going on. And then there is what those numbers add to, which is the number 4, and that is the year that we're going through. We're going through a 4 global year. And let's start with some keywords that I wrote down here. I have breakthrough, but less in a way that it's one word. Think like actually physically breaking through something. And that sounds silly to say like that because they mean the same thing, basically. But for whatever reason, I feel like breakthrough as two separate words is a more appropriate feeling for this year. I also have foundation, cultivation. So imagine kind of like saving seeds and then starting seeds and then, looking after them, observing them, helping them grow. This kind of energy. Diligence, matters of the home, period, obstacles, and then studying and learning. These are all attributes of the 4-year, but also I think specifically with this 4-year. The first thing that I want to dive into, kind of like from a bigger perspective for 2020, is to be careful what you wish for. I think for a lot of us who have been diligently already kind of like working towards something, or perhaps we had a true 2019 3-year where we were inspired. Many of us did find our inspiration again last year. Maybe we found the resources to do a thing. Maybe we kind of were just in this very positive attitude where we were able to stumble upon what we were meant to stumble upon, and so now we kind of like have more tools at our disposal. This is a time where I think that we're possibly going to get a taste of our goals. We're possibly going to get a glimpse of what it actually means to attain what it is we're asking for and what it is that we're working for. And so I say be careful what you wish for, because these glimpses are going to show you if this is actually what you want in life. For example, this is just my personal example, and I'm sorry, it's probably not going to be personal to you guys, but for me, I have 800 subscribers right now. My goal is to reach 1,000. This is kind of just like a mild example. It could be like something much bigger for you personally, but for me, let's just say I want to reach 1,000 subscribers. Universe says, okay, great. 2 things. Are you willing to work hard enough to attain that goal? Are you willing to really take on what it means to have something like that? And then 2, when you get that goal, are you going to actually like the result of that? When you reach 1,000 subscribers and you get to apply for your AdSense money, will you like the responsibilities that come with that? When you reach a wider audience, are you ready to deal with the ramifications of that, which means having more responsibility to make videos, having more responsibility to interact with an audience, having to deal with fanatics and lunatics, which is just what naturally comes with having a YouTube channel, because the YouTube community is wild. And that's not because YouTube is a home for these people, but it's more like, we're mentally ill as a human race, and mentally ill people often don't have jobs, and they kind of just like sit at home and finger fuck their phones and say a lot of things on random channels that they don't actually want to be watching. And they're trolls. They're just there to be negative and have negative comments. So this is what I'm thinking. This is one of the many things that I'm being approached with this year. I also have stuff going on in my job, and it's kind of like, so this is what you want. Are you ready to take the responsibility of that? Are you ready to actually receive what that is? Is this what you want? And I don't think it's all going to come for us this year. I don't think we're going to be actually just going to magically step into 2020 and everything we've ever wanted has come, but we might just get a taste of it, okay? And will be like the flavor of that, if that makes any sense. So, in a nutshell, I think that ultimately what this will mean for many of us is that 2020 is going to challenge us in a way where we must meet our own expectations. And it will beg the question, what does this entail? And are we ready for that? Really? Are we ready to reach our goals? And so aside from that, let's now talk about the repeating number 2 and the repeating number 0 in 2020. 2 is about love, emotions, and ultimately balance. Often in tarot, it can signify a decision. Do I go left or do I go right? And often there is an encouragement to figure out a way to walk right down the middle. And so this is what I think is meant by the balance of the two. 2 is a very soft and, like I said, emotional number. And so I think what this is also going to ask of us is to pause. I think that we should dedicate time to reconnect with our purpose, to reconnect with what truly is important. Why are we diligently working towards what we're working towards? Remember why you started in the first place. The 00 that we have in 2020 is unique because we don't normally have a lot of zeros in a year. And this is void energy. This is what I call the invitation. In my repeating numbers playlist, I talk about repeating number 0. I also made a video on the meaning of number 0. So if you're curious, check those videos out. But yeah, so basically void energy is very raw. It's nothing. Think about the philosophical, implications of the number 0. Nothing can be anything. This raw energy is confrontational. And so this is when we see a lot of true intentions surface, even the bad ones, unfortunately. For those of us who haven't been addressing the false stories that we tell ourselves, ego, and I also made a video on that, what is ego, because that is a really good question to ask. That is a very good discussion to have because I think it means a lot. And I think I've been reflecting on this for a while too, and I don't think I said this in the video, but here's a simpler definition, and that is ego being everything that we can't take with us when we die. So basically it's like our attachments, and then this can mean anything. We can't take our selfishness with us. We can't take our self-consciousness with us. We can't take our greed with us. We can't take any of these stories that we just want to be true and aren't necessarily true. It's, what do we take with us when we die? We don't even take our bodies. We just take our essence, our being. So when I say dissolve ego, when I say addressing ego, this is what I mean. I mean living as spirit as a person and not being so caught up in human illusions. And so these illusions are going to be very haunting, unfortunately, for those who haven't done this work. It's going to be a very bad year for them. It's going to be a struggle. And then on the flip side of this, the other kind of experience that is on the total opposite end of the spectrum is that a lot of people are going to be going through a sort of come to Jesus moment, so to speak, where they're ready, they're ready to let go of something, whatever it is that person is meant to in that lifetime. And I'm hoping that there's more people like this. Of course, probably not, unfortunately, but I always have this hope that with each decade, there are more and more people willing to turn a new leaf in life. And it's hard for us who watch our family members and our friends not wanting to turn a new leaf, wanting to be kind of, bogged down in this, 3D consciousness or whatever the heck you want to call it, basically just being consumed with human stories, and when we're capable of something better, when we're capable of not seeing our lives as just our own, but as a collective, and how we need to help each other, and, becoming aware of this and starting to walk in that path, whatever that means for us individually. I'm really hoping that we see more and more of these people with 2020. I'm sure we will to some extent, because it's a statistical impossibility to just only have, fanatics on one side of the coin just surfacing and making our lives, unfortunately, kind of muddled and difficult in this way. But if you are experiencing this, if you are like me and you're kind of like in this crazy world and you're like looking around and you're not really sure what the heck is going on, just my advice to you is to just stay centered. This having this outlet on YouTube, I think, is a really good thing. I have my own channels that I follow and who talk about this, and I don't feel alone. And I think that's, if you are kind of coming into your awakening where you're suddenly on the outside of your peers, don't fret. Like, you are not alone. It's going to be okay, I promise. In the end, it's going to be okay. For anyone watching who is starting to confront their own ego and honestly starting to look at situations and look at themselves, my advice to you is to not stifle your ego. You don't just pretend something's not there. I'm not just gonna pretend that I'm not self-critical of myself and, whatever the heck I have going on in my life. I'm not gonna just suppress these things that we inherently all have as human beings. That just makes it worse. And you're gonna see a lot of that too. If you try to ignore something that is there, it's gonna become stifled, it's gonna become infected, it's just gonna be a worse issue than it needs to be. So the way that we work through ego is simply by acknowledging it. The second that you look at it and are honest with yourself and honest with life and people and everything, somehow this helps. I don't know why, I don't know how. I'm not advanced myself to be able to explain this. I'm sure there's some Alan Watts discussion on this, on why trying to bury things makes things worse, and why just simply by looking at something and knowing that's, this is a quality that you have, it simmers down. For example, I hate public speaking. I didn't want to do this channel because I'm not good at orating anything. I'm really not. I'm a writer, I'm all in my head all the time. There's no connection between my brain and my mouth, so this is difficult. But instead of trying to bury my insecurities of not being good enough to have a channel, of not being good enough to read cards, and not being good enough to, give numerology readings, instead of trying to just bury that, I think through the act of just acknowledging that this is a quality that I have and living with it, learning how to live with it, I now can coexist with these parts of myself while doing this. And this took time. This didn't happen overnight. This was a few years of working through this. So that's my advice to you if you're in that position. So enough of that. Let's finally get to this 4-year. We're just going to talk about the 4-year now. And as I said in the beginning, 4 is about diligence, okay? It's about matters of the home. I believe that Cancer is in the 4th house. So think of it kind of like that Cancer energy where, it's kind of about creature comforts and about, feeling good at home. But more so through the lens of numerology, it's about building a foundation, like an actual physical house or something physical in your life. So this could be your job or your actual home, or perhaps you need to build a foundation in your relationships. Perhaps you need to, build the foundation within yourself somehow, because our bodies are our homes as well. So this is kind of what we're dealing with this year as a collective. And like I said in the beginning, if your birthday numbers add up to 9, this is very much applicable to you. 4 is a very not only kind of like foundational, slowly, diligently building kind of number, it's more like a studying number as well. So this is, going back to school. This is you having like a rekindled interest in something, like suddenly a topic is sparking your curiosity to the point where you feel like you need to read 5 books on it and, maybe even write about it. My advice for everyone here for the 4 year is first to save money. Okay, I'm not saying you should necessarily hoard money. If you need to spend money on something, you should definitely be spending money, but spend it tactfully. And if you are going to be traveling this year, if you do have plans away from home, figure out a way to serve your interests a little bit more. Like, figure out a way to make that a utility to somehow. And that sounds very vague, so let me explain. Say you're going on vacation for like a week somewhere. Do your research on that place. Figure out if you can meet up with people and network somehow. Figure out what resources are in that place that you're traveling to that you can use at your own disposal for your goals, what you have planned for this year. And that could be your professional life, or it could be your personal life, your hobbies. It could be anything at all. So yeah, just save money, do your research before you're traveling to figure out, how you can best utilize that time. And then also I wrote down here, when confronted with obstacles, as the 4 year can often bring. A 4 year is challenging. We have to kind of just work at it and until we get somewhere. And often this means, coming across obstacles to some extent. I wrote here, remain calm. The only way out is through. That's a quote. And then another quote I have here is, learn to rest, not quit. Consider the idea that the value of your work does not just come from the result. It comes from doing the work itself. We're told that a lot as students, I think, and then we kind of like forget that because our lives are constant work and we come disconnected from the process of working, not just the result. There is something to be gained. There is something to be learned through doing the work itself, not just the result. And so I'm going to piggyback off of that and also say, acknowledge your successes while you're going through this year, no matter how small. Don't just, do a thing and then immediately go to the next thing. Like, while you're doing these things, acknowledge what you're doing while you're doing it. See that you are getting somewhere, even though it's probably, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You are doing it, so feel good about that. Reward yourself. Another piece of advice that I have here is to address matters of the home. So if you need to, do some work on like your renovations in your home, you need to renovate your basement. This is a good year to do that. It's a good year to put tires on your car, get your car maintenance done. What is home? That's a good question to ask during any 4 year, whether that be globally or personally. How can we make our environments feel more like home to us? How can we feel more at home in our lives? When you are done working really hard and, like I said, reward yourself, take breaks. Like I said, learn to rest, not quit, so that we're not just having a slow descent into lunacy from hard work. We gotta take breaks. We gotta pace ourselves and feel good. We need to feel good, okay? Period. The number 4 can sometimes be a little bit dry, a little bit dense, just because, and this is just because it can often mean that it's time to, address the things that we've been, leaving behind. If we were having a true 3 year last year, we were probably caught up in the moment a lot. And if we're caught up in the moment a lot, things come up that have been waiting to be done and now we gotta do them. So if you're down by this year, it could just be for that reason, and don't worry about it. The best advice I can give for everyone here is to just stay steady on your course, save the money, make the plans, overcome the obstacles, and when we address everything that we need to address, either on a big level as a human race or on a personal level, the following year will have a lot of benefits. We will be able to experience the 5 global year to the fullest. So I think that is all that I have to say for now for the 4 year. And I'm sure that there's a lot more that could be mentioned or discussed. So I welcome your questions. And I also welcome your insights. What do you feel is on the horizon for 2020? I would love to hear what you think. And as always, please like and comment and subscribe to my channel so that those who are meant to find it can. And if you want to schedule a reading with me, all the links are in the description. Everything that you need to know basically is always in the description. I'll leave all the links to my social media there as well, so feel free to check that out. And as always, thank you so much for watching, especially if you got to the end of this probably long video. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all soon. Take care, guys.